Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be going through my NCAA tournament picks. Alright, so we're going to start out in the East region here. Obviously, pretty easy choice here. I got Duke moving on, and I will have them facing UCF. I know VCU's got a pretty good squad over there. I just think UCF has had a little more experience this year, especially with that win against Houston at Houston. I just think UCF gets past VCU in a close, well-fought game on both sides. Moving down here, I'm going to go with Mississippi State, and I have them facing St. Louis. I have St. Louis upsetting Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, very good defensive team overall. St. Louis, I just think is coming into the tournament high off of that conference championship. I just have a good feeling about the St. Louis. Alright, moving on here. And then I will have Maryland, and then once again, another upset over a 3 seed. Or excuse me, 14 over a 3. Yale's got a good backcourt, some good shooters over there. I could actually, and I will have them go into the Sweet 16, but we'll get to that later. This one over here, excuse me, I have Louisville, and I will have them facing Michigan State. Minnesota, I just don't see them beating Louisville. Louisville is a tough team. They got some good shooters over there as well. And then Michigan State, I see them walking right past Bradley. All right, moving over to the West. Again, pretty obvious decision here. I got Gonzaga, and then I will have them playing Syracuse. And Syracuse, I think, in the second round could be a pretty tough squad to go up against Gonzaga. But we'll see who I pick. Now this one's a tough choice for me. Marquette, Murray State. Obviously Jay Moran and Murray State going up against Marquette. Marquette's kind of been struggling the last month or so, but I'm going to go with my gut. I think Marquette, I think they're going to pick it up a little bit in the tournament here. I think they send Jay Moran and Murray State home in the first round. I got Florida State next. This is a team that I think could potentially get to the Final Four. They got a good squad over there. They had that rough little stretch there, but they found their way here. After the ACC championship game, you could tell the Duke Blue Devil players, pardon me, were really impressed with the way that Florida State fought them, and I think that is a sleeper to go to the Final Four. Over here is a 6-11. Obviously, you can tell the Arizona State-St. John game hasn't been played yet. I don't think either is going to beat Buffalo, however. I think Buffalo is going to win just one game in the tournament, that's it. And I think it's here in the first round. Texas Tech, once again, I think they get past Northern Kentucky pretty easily. Now, this is a tough choice for me here, Nevada or Florida. Both really good squads. Nevada made it to, I believe, the Sweet 16 last year. And Florida narrowly missed being in the SEC championship they lost on a last-second shot to Auburn. Or not a last-second shot, but a go-ahead shot. And I actually have Florida upsetting Nevada in the first round. I think it's going to be a close game down to the wire. I think that Florida makes a go-ahead shot with about 10 seconds left, and I think Nevada just doesn't take the win in that one. Once again, I have Michigan moving on pretty easily. Next up, Gardner-Webb. Now, honestly, if Virginia loses to 16 seeds 2 years in a row, honestly don't know what would even happen to them. That would be the most insane thing, I think, ever in the history of sports. This one's a tough one for me, Mississippi and Oklahoma. I think it's going to be, again, another really close game. I think Mississippi comes out on top, though. Now, here is the most intriguing 5-12 matchup, I think, in the entire NCAA tournament this year. Wisconsin, obviously, coming off of a rough loss to Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. Oregon flying high. They've been one of, if not the top team in college basketball right now. I'm not saying they're better than Duke. I just think they're one of the hottest teams right now. Luckily for Wisconsin, they aren't a three-point shooting team, which is what Oregon has become best known for, stopping in the past couple weeks. But I think Oregon gets the edge. I think they just claw just a little further than Wisconsin does in this game. Kansas State, I like UC Irving, or Irvine, excuse me. I think Kansas State will make it through unscathed, though. Returning champs, Villanova, I think they move on. I know St. Mary's just beat Gonzaga. Uh, I just think Nova, a little more experience. Jay Wright, great head coach. I just think Nova moves on. Purdue, I think move on pretty easily as well. These next two are pretty easy for me too. Iowa, I like, but Cincinnati, I gotta go with. Once again, they won their conference championship. I just like Cincinnati, and I also like them to upset my next pick, Tennessee, in the second round, but I'll get to that in a second. All right, moving to the Midwest region now. North Carolina, once again, pretty easy. I think Utah State, moves on pretty easily as well over Washington. Now you're thinking, 8, 9 seeds, pretty even. I think Utah State's just the better team. Next one, Auburn. I know New Mexico State's getting a lot of hype as a 12 seed. They got a good record, but I think Auburn, I know they take a lot of threes. They took over 50 in the SEC tournament alone. Or not in the SEC tournament, like the last two games. They take about 33s a game, and I expect most of them to fall in that game for Auburn. Kansas, really, and I know Kansas fans will agree, rough season. Not the way I think most of the nation actually thought it was going to go for Kansas, but they're here as a 4 seed. I think they get past Northeastern pretty easily, and I don't think there's an upset there. Iowa State, I think they get past a team who's just lucky to be in the tournament. And then Houston, I have moving on pretty easily. I like Houston. Again, I think another potential Final Four team. Wofford and Seton Hall is an interesting game here. I think I go with the Terriers. And then Kentucky as well over Albany Christian. Duke, I think Duke is in the easiest region out of the entire bracket. I don't see anyone here except Michigan State even fighting to get past Duke. I think Duke gets to the Final Four pretty easily. I know I just spoiled one of my Final Four teams, but hey, it's a pretty obvious one, I bet. Mississippi State, St. Louis, again, pretty tough matchup here. I think Mississippi State moves on. St. Louis, sorry, I think your luck runs out. But not for Yale. Yale, I think you move on. I think Maryland barely gets out of the first round, and I think Yale, again, I think that backcourt is just going to be too much for Maryland in the second round, and I have Yale going to Sweet 16. Now, this Louisville-Michigan State matchup's pretty interesting to me. Being a North Carolina fan, I pay attention to the ACC a lot more than other conferences. I like Louisville. I think if the right Louisville team shows up, they can beat Michigan State, but I think this Louisville team doesn't show up, and Michigan State moves on to the Sweet 16. I got Gonzaga, Syracuse. Like I said earlier, Syracuse I could see upsetting Gonzaga. I don't think they do in the second round, though. And then I have Florida State beating Marquette. I actually have Marquette losing by double digits in this game. Should it happen, Florida State, I just think they keep it rolling. Texas Tech, I think they move past Buffalo pretty easily. And then I have Texas Tech facing Michigan in the Sweet 16 as well. Michigan, I think it's a close game for the first half, and I think Michigan pulls away in the second half. In the South, again, I think Virginia rolls past Ole Miss pretty easily. And I actually have Oregon in the Sweet 16. Now, I know that may seem a little strange, but I think Kansas State is a team that shouldn't be a 4. I think there's a couple of teams that maybe are well. I think Auburn should have been a 4 after their SEC championship win. But I do think Oregon stays the hottest team in college basketball. I think they shut down Kansas State and move on to the Sweet 16. I also have the defending champs moving on to Sweet 16. I think uh, their experience is just a little too much for Purdue. Purdue's been in it, I know, but I just think Villanova's got a little more experience with Jay Wright and a couple other returning key players from that championship run last year. And I actually have Cincinnati upsetting Tennessee in the second round, and that's just because the second game is in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's basically a home game for Cincinnati. I think they have a good turnout for their fans, obviously, these first two games, and I don't think Tennessee can stop Cincinnati in their home turf. Midwest region, Utah State, I could see giving North Carolina a little bit of a scare. North Carolina comes out on top. I got Auburn beating Kansas. Some say that's an upset. I don't think so. I think Auburn is one of the top teams in this tournament right now. And then I could see Iowa State, if they have the right momentum coming in and the right game plan for Houston. I think Houston's a little too strong for them. And then Kentucky, I think, blows past Wofford pretty easily as well. Going back up here, I'm going to be a little more quick here. Duke, I think, and Michigan State are my Elite Eight, along with Florida State. I have them upsetting Gonzaga. Florida State narrowly beat Duke. They almost did again in the ACC Championship. Gonzaga's been I don't like to read too much into one game, but they should have beaten St. Mary's in their conference tournament. I think Florida State is a little too much for them in this game. Michigan, I think, blows past Texas Tech pretty easily. I just don't think Texas Tech has enough to stop Michigan in this one. All right, so now we go to the South region. Virginia, I have them beating Oregon. Oregon, I don't think puts up as much as a fight as they would have in the previous two games. And then I have Villanova beating Cincinnati, moving to the Elite Eight. And then I also have North Carolina and Houston in my Elite Eight in the Midwest region. So now going to see my Final Four picks. I obviously have Duke, Michigan State, losing Cassius, Winston, and Langford hurts them. I think that they're a little too banged up to beat Zion and Cam Reddish and Trey Jones. I also have Michigan beating a Florida State team that I think will be close to the Final Four this year. But that's my Final Four coming out of the East and the West. And then the South, I have Virginia and North Carolina. I have the three ACC 1 seeds in there. Duke is a pretty easy choice. North Carolina is going to, in my opinion, in the toughest bracket. Duke in the easiest. Virginia Virginia and Gonzaga are both kind of similar brackets, but those are my Final Four. And then as my championship, I have North Carolina and Duke, the best rivalry in college sports. And I have North Carolina taking Duke 80-77. I think it stays tied. I think Kobe White hits a shot that actually goes in and redeems himself in the ACC semifinals. I'll finish that. There's my bracket. Comment down below what some upsets or your Final Fours. And it's the best time of the year. Nothing better than March Madness. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you later.